Alrighty. Everything good? Okay. Everything should be in line. So, alright. Let's just get started. Oh yeah, let me just have this these on. Okie dokie. Well, let's go back to where I left off. So where I left off is around, yeah, around 3 because I didn't get to explain much of the diagram. Talked about this image. We're under 3 out of 5 things to know about ice storms under the weather site to understand the issue when it comes to ice. Let's just finish this. 3. Ice storms and their impacts can last for days. Depending on the severity of the ice storm and the weather pattern, impacts can persist for days. It's more than half an inch of ice occurs and damage is widespread. It can take quite a while to remove trees and repair power lines. There's a result in a loss of electricity and heat for several days. In some cases, hypothermia can become a concern due to the prolonged cold conditions and lack of heat. As we can see the image, let's try to get a closer up here. Okay, just brings us here. Let's go to ice threat, where warmer moist air is green, icy steppe is purple, it overrides cold air near the surface. Okay, so let me see. Ice is breezing through here. This is just ice. It's there. However, when it comes to wind, it's actually becoming a bit of concern. I understand this vaguely, but this is general. I wish there's more explanation, but an example of how an ice storm develops. Well, let's read on to after that. The other factor to consider is how cold it will be after the storm. If temperatures do not rise above the freezing mark, then not much melting will take place, especially in areas where there isn't much sun. This is especially important in areas such as the South, where there is a limited equipment and supplies to treat roadways. That's the case when it comes to many southern states. That also includes definitely Texas. Alright, let me see the flashing. Yeah, it still occurs while I squat, but also when I drink water because of probably lighting. The more I start knowing, the complicated it gets. One other consideration is if melting does occur and then the temperature drops below freezing, black ice can form, resulting in additional slippery and travel conditions. Remember, black ice is really just clear ice that is stuck on a surface and it doesn't melt away easily. It's black due to it becoming a big issue with traffic, due to it can create a lot of mishaps. Black ice is just because it's ice that you could see in the road in a black pavement. That's pretty much what I learned days ago, or some time ago, maybe years ago. Who knows? You need to prepare ahead of time. To mitigate the potential impacts that can occur from an ice storm, it's necessary to prepare ahead of time. If you're stuck at home for several days, make sure you have enough non-perishable foods and any supplies you may need, including water, a cooler with ice, and prescriptions. Non-perishable is just referring to food that has a very long shelf life and does not require refrigeration, canning, any other mishaps. Pretty much refrigeration, since people usually just refrigerate a lot. And those are the items that usually would go But when it comes to snow, any winter weather, you could actually refrigerate outside. There is not that dangerous harm towards it compared to like a heat wave where pretty much non-perishable foods would just go very bad. But with snow, if you could actually see pictures over there, people up just put stuff outside while it snows to actually have it refrigerated. It could turn ice and to still be contaminated. So yeah, that's something to be care of. But that's some ingenious ways to refrigerate your stuff that are non-perishable, that are perishable foods, but non-perishable like canned food, that is always great. Water, yep, because even water can run out, so that's always the thing. Along with a cooler with ice, just a container to hold food, and prescriptions medicine, because medicine does not grow on trees, and you'll probably need to make medicine in order to be productive, in order to actually not be in pain. That's the unfortunate truth. Right on. Onwards to, if you have canned foods, be sure to have a non-electric can opener, because you can use it without electricity, because you probably lost electricity. And you don't have to worry about seeking electricity. So, you don't have to be that dependent on it. If you lose power, it is a good idea to have flashlights, batteries, and candles on hand. Remember to keep the doors to the refrigerator and freezer closed to keep the food cold. That's that's another thing that I have to always think in the back of my mind, because if you actually just open, close the refrigerator every single time just to see what things you need again or not, that's something that could be detrimental if you're trying to get used to living without power, because you can't do that anymore, because every choice you can be more dire than you did before. At least with electricity on and no natural disasters, well, you just have a higher electricity bill. But in this case, you could lose a lot of food. You could damage the refrigerator by any chance. But yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing about that. Onward to charge any necessary electronics, such as your cell phone. If possible, have a secondary source of heat. Alrighty. You should also have a first aid kit, some cash, and have your vehicle filled with gas, according to FEMA. This is FEMA guidelines, because when it comes to here, you have to have gas to move around everywhere. It's pretty crucial. And other places that are a little bit more walkable distance, at least you don't have to worry about that. And what is it? Even in Texas, some gas even freeze, so you can't even use a car if the fuel itself just freezes and it's not usable. You really can't put a fire into it; it'll go bad. Considering pruning limbs or removing trees leaning toward your home before the ice storm to avoid the potential of falling trees or limbs on your home. Yeah, I actually like that. However, what stinks is that this is under the prepare tab, so that's something a lot of people have to consider. And make sure you have the equipment, because what is it? You can even get injured, and if you get injured before a natural disaster occurs, well, you're going to be stuck. And that's going to be a dire situation. So be careful with whatever you do, even with prepping. Now onwards to number 5. Oh, what was that? I guess I moved my hand here. All right. They've happened many times before. One of the most devastating ice storms happened in portions of northern New England, upstate New York, and southeastern Canada, January 5th through 9th, 1998. Ice accumulated up to 3 inches in some areas, resulting in extensive power outages that lasted for days and in some cases weeks. Damage total 1.4 billion in the US, 3 billion in Canada. 16 deaths were reported in the US and 28 deaths in Canada. Alright, we got an image here. Residents of Montreal, Canada walk with their belongings to the cars while seeking shelter after losing power January 8th, 1998. Yep. Talking about pruning trees that can damage their houses, especially with townhouses just being so stacked together. Yeah, that's something neighbors should consider helping each other. Now, Marcos Townhead AFP Getty images. This reminded me of a freaking post I looked up in Reddit where there was an answer sheet that had George Washington, U.S. first president, in the picture, and it had a fill in the blank answer that was filled for his name. Name this president. Someone put Getty images because obviously some person just looked up George Washington, they saw the image, and it just has Getty images. I mean, it can't make sense. What is it? Thompson submachine gun. Somewhere. The last name was Thompson. M1 Garand weapon rifle was named from a last name Garand. Garand. Because they pretty much called him Garand, not Garand. So yeah, it's a tomato situation. And I also realized I know a lot about gun history. Well, thanks YouTube. Now, let's finish this up. Many ice storms take place in the South, including one in February 1994, which impacted areas from Texas and Oklahoma eastward to the Carolinas. More than 2 million lost power. Some residents in Mississippi were without power a month after the storm. At least 9 deaths were attributed to the storm. So yeah, when it came to the Mississippi, pretty much people around the southeast United States, from Texas to Oklahoma to you pass by Louisiana, Mississippi, then Alabama, Georgia to the Carolinas, north and south. Yep, those are areas that don't have the infrastructure, the resources, immediate accessibility to handle this natural disaster. Cold winter related ones. That sucks. We see in real life with Texas. They're probably going to update this later just to make it more up to date, more relevant. And that's the thing about this. February 9th, 2021. So yeah, there's going to be, I'm going to probably update this with Linda Lam or any other author editor and change this. So yeah. Yeah, this goes to show that there is concerns to look at ice storms, which brings us to winter storms, a general natural disaster that usually occurs, but it can actually be very, very worse. Not exactly ice storms because it doesn't have any backfalls, but it has some commonality with it, and it can turn into a really winter storm, really turn to a ice storm if it becomes really bad and ice becomes a very issue. But that is something I will cover next time. Besides that, Scrolling down here, it's a good hefty one. I'm not gonna go through all the resources, obviously. But, I'll definitely take some time talking about this subject. Besides that, well, catch you later. So long.